Greg Harmon, deceleration live now. I've been holding on to a couple interviews and wanted to make sure to bring those out quickly. Our friend Molly is on. I wish I had more time, been on my game better, and been able to advance this last council vote. It was pretty horrendous, and that's why I've been kind of like trying to crunch it down and do a bit of analysis for y'all in terms of an effort to try to provide 60 days of additional grace period to renters to protect them from eviction. And it split hard on the council, 6-5, with the mayor on the losing side on that in defense of renters. And I've got a number of updates I want to share. Usually I do a couple of updates, a couple of interviews. I'm just probably, you can tell, I'm really freaking tired, and I just want to do right by the people who have trusted me with their time. So welcoming to this show is Molly, who is someone who's very well known in the housing justice and homelessness justice areas of the city, herself formerly homeless, has a roof, doing well, but has not left that struggle and is working full-time, assisting others. From everything that I can tell, this is our first time to really get to know each other a little bit, so I'm really grateful to have had this opportunity. Maria Turvin with Yanawana Herbolarios is here as well. We did an interview about a week ago, and I wanted to share that. It's really about, in her words, helping people find their way back, right, to traditional ways and ways of remembering, but taking ownership. I think the thing that resonates across the board is taking ownership of one's health in a very difficult time. So by way of update, I did want to share there's this double down and SA blood drive that the blood banks are real low right now, and I guess that now that we're reopened, I don't even want this language. I need new language, so somebody throw something on the comments. New language for reopening the economy. Now that people are moving around more, now that the hospitals and the doctors are receiving folks back to do more traditional surgeries, things that have been put off, the blood banks are really low. So there's this from the 21st to 23rd at the Alamo Plaza, a real push to try to lift that up. I'm not crazy about the graphic for various reasons. I've given blood before, so it's not that. It's not my queasiness. Someone else may know what I'm about here, but I wanted to draw your attention to that, as well as our dear friends at the Carrizo Comacrudo tribe of Texas. Let me turn this up. Are coming up on a tribunal. This is going to be something I hope everybody that is able to participate will be able to join. So it's Friday and Saturday. We'll try to have more information on deceleration.news. Marisol and I recently collaborated. I think it was our first co-bylined article. Was for Vice or Vice Canada, if that's separate from Vice, I don't know, but about all the ways that Juan and all the folks with the tribe are working with this village network system style of resistance to both just across the board, these colonial geopolitical boundaries, these the militarization, racist attacks on those migrating to better lives. So the pipelines and the fracking and the LNG ports. The list is long. And if you look back at our site, you can find that they're doing amazing work. So this is a tribunal in which there'll be a virtual 2 days virtual tribunal recording the past and present harms by governments and the fossil fuel industry, international, national, in terms of their damages against the Ishnokna, which is the Carrizo Comacrudo's name for itself, the human beings of Somesek here, as we know, in Texas. So check that out. There's hopefully I put there's some information up on here, and I can add more. There's something I wanted to put in. Oh, here's the registration. Let me drop the registration into the comments. Man, it's quiet over in this land of comments. But thanks for those of y'all who did come in to sit with us for a minute. Yeah, I have to say, I haven't actually been watching council meetings in the way that maybe I should. It's been nuts for many of you. I mean, if you've been on this broadcast before, you know we've got folks, we've got family, we've got folks in the house, we've got a baby, we've got a middle schooler, we're homeschooling unexpectedly till recently. And it's really hard to keep up with all the work. I mean, we're fortunate that we are working, but when it comes to like catching all the meetings and doing all of that, and to watch what just happened after spending time, I think it was back in episode 4 with some of our friends. You're not supposed to say that. That's so Marisol is watching for the first time, episode 11. Thank you for joining us, Marisol. Anyway, yeah, so much distraction. So I did check out this week. I wanted to see, let me get my mic up a little bit. Wanted to check in. So we've been talking about housing. We know that come the 2nd, the protections that at least heretofore, I think it's June 2nd, that the property owners, the landlords, and all this eviction floodgates open. It's like slip and slide, Schlitterbahn, whatever it is, without more protection, without better design, without better policy. We're moving into critical time for folks, and so connecting with Molly was good in that way, who helped put me in that direction. And interestingly, a friend of mine let me know about this effort. Let me see if I can click over to the PDFs. This was the ordinance, right? It came out of, I think Texas Housers was one I heard about, Texas Organizing Project, TRLA maybe, but the language is essentially, let me get it up here, recognizing that we have a certain amount of money set aside to assist those who are suffering from the outflow of the pandemic, loss of job, underemployment. We've seen the images, right? And the Express News loves reminding us how effective this image of all these people lined up looking for food has been. They've been published several times. And so as a request to basically extend the time for 60 days to halt the eviction process after this work safe home order is lifted. And that ordinance came up. Here it is here, saying we're basically, and I think Trevino is kind of like leading on this, essentially in District 1 City Center. Hey, we've been instructing people, ordering people, stay home, non-essential work. The governor's been doing the same, non-essential, stay home. And all this, obviously, there's been economic blowback on this, and we know that as of probably next month, we may be reaching upper 20% unemployment. And so there's a recognition in this language that, one, we asked you to, we instructed you to stay home, we closed down businesses at the Fed, from the national to the state to the local, and we got to take care of you. We have to keep taking care of folks, and it wasn't met well by the full council. Let me just go back to over here. So these are some of the folks that we saw. You would expect this fellow, Bragman here, the chair, the board of realtors, and a major, when they call it, investor in tree pack. So this is the lobbying side of that work. There was Gibson. I just shot them in order. So like somehow I think there was a deferential period where the richest, most powerful folks in the real estate land ownership and leasing business got to go up first. This is Greg Gibson, president of the Real Estate Council of San Antonio, one of those early folks at the podium, also from Endura. And again, this is mostly like corporate realtor folks. This is they talk about on their website 11 million square feet being leased and another 2.8 in a portfolio. I don't know why I'm spending time on this. I mean, who shows up at these things. And then here is the Marty Hutchison, Property Management Services Texas Senior VP, and the past president of the National Association of Residential Property Managers. What I liked about this group is the little umbrella on the website, the quote being property management services that will cover your needs and the unexpected. So obviously they're out to cover the needs and the unexpected of their clients. The council, half the council plus one went wild. Interesting that most of those who were siding with the realtors who filled the chambers, were still under order. My understanding is order to stay home, and if you can't stay home, put a mask on and all that. Council members praising everybody showing up, doing their civic duty. Those of us who are most interested in continuing to protect our communities, staying home and avoiding that circus. But that room was full of landlords and the realty folks. And there was one. So there was one. My new friend Molly stepped to the mic.
Hi, what a day. 20 years experience. I limited my speech. 20 years experience working a minimum wage job where I became intimately aware of corporate apartment complexes having zero mercy for renters. I became aware of how property management companies seek profit over losses to such extreme measures, even if it means cutthroating a person's safety to housing. You are about to witness the largest eviction of rent rolls, north, south, east, and west of San Antonio. Homelessness of people will be your largest segment of society that you currently, unfortunately, are not equipped to provide safety at this time. NHSD emergency rental assistance is already 2 to 3 months behind. Some people furloughed will not regain their jobs. Some people are not qualified for stimulus or can't even get unemployment benefits. Some people need the 60-day extension. Please have a change of heart. Some people need the 60-day to secure employment. And so if you're not going to come up with a very large safe parking lot program, then please vote yes on the right to care ordinance today. Give renters a fighting chance to housing. Housing is a right of every person. It is a right to be housed. Stop the abusiveness of the corporate apartment management complexes and other landlords. The unfortunate reality in this city is that corporate apartment complexes and other landlords are determined not to suffer business losses as other business owners have, even if it means, again, cutthroating people's safety and the opportunity to affordable housing. All they are concerned with is profit, not loss. That's the bottom line. 20 years of jaw-dropping story after story describing a heartless industry of takeovers.
Thank you, Molly.
And the shameful locations. Vote yes, please.
A property owner can delay payments with their bank.
Well, let me pour. I kind of condensed down. I'm going to roll that in a second. I condensed down this hour and a half or whatever of the council debate over this proposed ordinance, starting with Councilman Trevino there. But I mean, I thought it was really interesting in that you can sit into some of these meetings sometimes and hear absolutely nothing, and then a council person can step in with a very targeted, informed question that exposes so much manipulation and mischaracterization and obfuscation. And I have to say, in this case, John Courage and Anna Sandoval both went in there ask simple questions, ask for information about, in the case, I think it was, I'm going to play this in a second, John Courage, asking, well, how many folks have, they're saying that, some of the other council members are saying, we don't need to put this, into play because we have all this money, federal money, we haven't spent yet, or we haven't spent what we've committed to before already. And what he revealed quickly was that half of the renters in San Antonio aren't going to benefit from the CARES Act at all, right? And that among those remaining, how many of those are already living under the poverty line? What we could expect to be seeing. It's kind of like watching that tidal wave, at the end of the movie, the disaster flick, is coming in, and you end up with half of council saying, well, it's not worth risking the city's money in a lawsuit, to the state of Texas. And the good on Sandoval here would be this fantastic quote, so under the an expert of understatement, essentially. And so let me paraphrase in my own slightly rougher way. Who the fuck needs to listen to the state of Texas when it's morally bankrupt and killing people? Maybe being sued for doing the right thing is just the right thing. So anyway, I'm going to let you check out. This is about a 10-minute clip. Tried to summarize where the council was and where we ended up. And hopefully this is not, I can't imagine that we're done trying to address the needs of people in San Antonio who are under this huge threat. There's a mass displacement. So check this out. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. I'm not going to get sidetracked into talking about the backstory on this broadcast, but I do encourage y'all to use it. If you have needs that you are trying to meet, use the comments. If you have something that you can offer to the community or that you're willing to volunteer, please use the comments. Molly's given me permission to use her phone number, so I'll be adding it there. And please, Molly, if you're able to join us, whatever that's your territory, absolutely. So here's my recap. It does not follow sequentially. I'm not playing games with people's quotes. This is just what they said. I put it in an order that made the most sense to me to tell this story.
A property owner can delay payments with their bank, and the bank will continue to report that they are in good standing. A renter, an eviction, the delay of making payment. This goes on the renter's history and can impact them in limiting their abilities to get into an apartment with yet another barrier for them to get through. I move to approve item number 5.
Second. My biggest concern is that there are about 280-something thousand people who are living in rental properties in the city. Half of those have a certain amount of protection or regulation under the CARES Act. So that's maybe 140 to 150,000 units. But there's another 130 to 140,000 units that don't have any kind of protection from the federal government against eviction. We have 20% of the people in this city, or 300,000, who are living at or below the poverty line. And I would imagine maybe half of those people are living in a lot of these properties that have not been able to pay their rent because they don't have the income. They've lost their jobs. And so, if there's 50 or 60,000 people like that, but we've had 7,000 come forward to ask for help, that means there's 40,000 or more out there who either haven't asked for help or don't understand they could ask for help. Their property owners don't understand the help's out there. What are we going to do June 2nd if 5,000 or 10,000 property owners decide, look, these people are behind 2 or 3 months rent, I'm just going to evict them, I don't know what to do? Are we going to have 2,000 or 3,000 families or 4,000 families or 5,000 families over the month of June get evicted? And if they are evicted, where are they going to go? Is someone who evicted somebody going to take someone in who just got evicted, who doesn't have a job?
I hear my constituents asking us to take responsibility to protect families in need during this unprecedented health and economic disaster, and I take it very seriously. I cannot add to the concentration of the human transmission of the coronavirus by allowing unprecedented levels of evictions to transpire and adding San Antonio residents to our vulnerable homeless population where they will be unprotected.
Can you tell me how many households have we helped so far with the Risk Mitigation Fund? I can speak to the applications, and those are approximately 7,000. And you intend to see those approved? Yes, we anticipate that. Thank you. And how many of those 7,000 will be receiving the 25% discount? What we've looked at is the apartment association members are working directly with their tenants, and they submit applications for their tenants to the city. And so there's been anywhere from about 300 applications, and that represents about $125,000 in value. So 300 families.
Okay, so all this money, so that was originally the way Risk Mitigation Fund was set up was to move resources to people who needed resources. This all hits. It all goes to the landlords to decide how they want to use it, if they want to participate in this rebate program, this 25%, reduction in rent. The Risk Mitigation Fund goes to them, and then they decide who gets it. So out of all this, there's 7,000 people who have applied for assistance. The landlords who have chosen to participate in this program, someone correct me if I'm wrong, 300 applications have been filed.
We are working on more education to work with the landlords on how we can increase that number. Okay, and that was the apartment association that brought that program forward? Yes. Okay, so they have managed to get 300 of their 300 tenants are currently benefiting from that program. 300 tenants. Okay, I spoke with them yesterday. They told me that their membership is about 80% all the rental units in San Antonio, so I'm surprised that there are only 100 coming forward.
The councilor started comments by thanking organizations that help him draft this ordinance, and many of them are political organizations in their mission statement that they have a political agenda.
Some of those groups that did help draft this legislation are political organizations with a political agenda. Thank you for pointing that out, Councilman Shirley Gonzalez. How about the Texas Housers who work to help poor folks recover from, among other things, natural disasters like Gulf Coast hurricanes? You got to be very suspicious of groups like this. Others with their names on this legislation. Texas Organizing Project, working to rectify legacy white supremacist oppression of black and brown voices and political power.
One thing that I can say very humbly and honestly, having Representative...
I'm sorry, I wasn't done with Shirley yet, but I have to go ahead. You get my point. That was literally the way she opened up her comments here. The political agenda of these organizations who do nothing but work to empower the people in her community she's supposed to be working for. Editorializing, moving on.
Poor community all these years is that never have a constituent come to me and said, I need my rent to be cured for 60 days.
Councilwoman Gonzalez, I got to hand it to you. You must have gotten my notes ahead of time because you're right on target on this thing. I'm in totally lockstep with you on this.
And that's a huge hazard if you get the councilman from D10 lockstep with you and you're in D5, then there is a red alarm fire going on somewhere. I'm going to overlook the fact that he accused her of cribbing from his notes. Okay, right? But her comments are just incredible. Are incredible to me. That there's the fear of the lawsuit. Sorry to interrupt again, but this here.
I want to be able to help folks who actually need it instead of paying legal fees that just make rich people richer. So today I will not be supporting this item.
Do we want to see another lawsuit that takes our taxpayers' dollars and puts them into a court system that truly does not benefit the residents of the city of San Antonio.
You know, I do not want another lawsuit because the city cannot afford one, both literally and figuratively.
I'm not going to address the constitutionality issues or the legal issues. I do see this as an emergency, and I want to cast my vote to protect those tenants. And, you know, we made the other considerations. I cannot always point to the state and how it functions as a model to follow for me, because, you know, we're talking about lawsuits. We just lost a lawsuit a few days ago, and it was a lawsuit against booking companies that didn't pay their hotel occupancy tax that was due to the city. They collected it and they didn't give it to the city. You would think that's black and white. Guess what? We lost that case. So do I think we're going to win other cases? I think our chances are nil. But is it... I would say the state was wrong in its decision to do that. That was taxpayer dollars. That was supposed to go to our arts and tourism here in San Antonio. And because of the state's decision, it's not. So I'm not going to hold myself to that as basically the gospel of what we should do as elected officials.
One of the things that we discussed from the very start, as we were looking into the dark part of the tunnel, is that we wouldn't turn our backs on any of our residents, that we would ensure that the most vulnerable, especially among us, were taken care of, and that no one was forced out the streets, no one went hungry, no one's livelihoods were decimated. We are now staring, I think, to a lighter part of the tunnel, and some of us can see that light beginning to poke through. When the health crisis is over, the economic crisis is only beginning.
So I just want to make sure folks mark your district, mark your council member here. And I really did. I tried to make this as simple and honest as I possibly could. There's always, you know, Clayton Perry's of the world that we're going to balance the books on the backs of whatever suffering is necessary to balance the fucking books, right? Then you have the Shirley Gonzalez's out here who start off accusing organizations, community organizations in her own district working to help people out of dire poverty and disempowerment as being driven by political agenda. And I think the thing that I forgot that I meant to mention earlier. So the comment that she made about, I've never had anybody in my district come to me and say, you know, I need a 60-day cure on my rent. Okay, because I never in my life have heard the term. I didn't know what that meant until now. So I could have never asked Shirley, my council member, for that myself. However, what is smacked up to me was Councilman Perry from 10, right? Who, when the Climate Action Plan was being debated, fought and said, I've never had anybody in my district come to me and said that they were worried about the ravages of global warming. And yet, every other, you know, like survey, interview, this or that, you have to offer something. You have to be willing to look at what the need is and understand the language may not be your own. And people don't have the same language that folks at City Hall did. This one was new for me. Anyway, please do share that, understand what just happened at our council. Check out Molly. I want to introduce, I can't say all that much. We've been in some of the same meetings together. And I know that she is someone whose heart is 100% in this work. If there's anybody who catches this, I've got resources I wanted to share. Actually, we had a long conversation, not a long conversation. Our last broadcast, episode 10, was all about mental health, essentially, to put it meekly. And we know these areas, family security, human security, well-being, violence, domestic violence, community violence is huge. So here's just something. I just want to throw the numbers up for what it's worth for those who are watching now. If you are in immediate danger, obviously 911, the phone lines are the ones that I share because I know that abusers. It doesn't take a lot. There's a couple YouTube classes, right? You can check to know how to track somebody on their computer and uncover deleted correspondence. Also, the suicide prevention lifeline. This distress helpline that I'm putting on here, I'm including because one, it's multilingual. It's not just Spanish, but I know they cover many. They have folks there, that counselors who will meet with folks who speak many other languages. But it's also it's a service that was set up specifically to deal with crisis, so that they are well aware of the intersecting lines of job loss and environmental disruption and family violence, all the rest in there. So that's a good one there. You can text the number to get connected as well. If you go back to episode 10, this forecast on suicide right now, we're talking about renters and homelessness primarily here. But there is a local study of Texas that found that for every 5% point bump in unemployment index, there's a corresponding thousands of suicides we can expect per year. And that's really intimidating. But I am, again, just really, really grateful for Molly's time, and I want to share this interview. Coming up behind that is Maria Turvin with Yanawana Herbolarios, and I think we're running right on schedule, so hopefully we can get all of that in. Anyway, our conversation with Molly. I think I'm just really grateful to be on with you today. I know that I've seen you in different meetings and in different settings, but we've never had the opportunity to really to engage and to get acquainted. And this is an interesting period of time where where we have the time to do those things, the time that we didn't have before. But I'm particularly interested because I know you have a lot of insight and you have a lot of knowledge, lived experience about what's happening right now in neighborhoods and communities of renters, maybe primarily. Who are really running, whose landlords or this or that are really running to a lot of abuse and threats and hazard. So I'm wondering if I could first just ask you, Molly, how you're doing right now. I know people care about you and maybe haven't seen you for a while. We're all huddled up in wherever we are. Let us know how you are and how you're staying safe. What you're doing to stay safe, and if there's anything that you need, I also like to open up and invite people into the comments to offer up if people have things to share, or if they have needs, or if there's, whether it's just I'm looking for a texting buddy, so I know that there's someone there for me, whatever it is. But I just tell me. I mean, these are this in this moment in the COVID times. How are you doing, Mom?
I'm actually doing, for the most part, I feel like I'm one of the lucky persons. I did recently have a COVID-19 test because I was experiencing some symptoms. I called that pre-screening line. I was instructed to go to the Freeman Coliseum, and I got my test done. And after agonizingly waiting for the results, I lost about 2.5 weeks of wages. So that set me back. Just losing half a month's worth of wages, that set me back pretty bad. But thankfully I got my results negative, and then my symptoms went away, and I'm still wearing my mask everywhere I go. And I was kind of scared, and I couldn't rent, and I applied for the NHSD, the emergency rental service. I tried to go through there. They told me that they have just so many applications, so many people applying every week, that the average time to respond to an individual was going to take about a month to 2 months.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. So
let me ask you this, to back up for real quick. So you're experiencing symptoms in line with and look like COVID-19. obviously doing the safe thing, going to get tested, and your boss, that doesn't qualify for time off or sick time, or there's nothing for you?
Well, I mean, of course they worked with me, but I wasn't getting paid. No,
Yeah.
I didn't get any time.
You kept your job.
No,
It was the best.
I kept my job, right.
Okay.
I guess I should be grateful for that, huh? But, but that's how I'm staying safe. I just stay home, and periodically I'll take my dog around the neighborhood, which is a blessing because I don't live in my slumlord's house anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually live in a good neighborhood where I can take a long walk with my dog around the area.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I do to stay safe nowadays.
Mm. And so you went in looking for assistance, and that's incredible. A month to 2 months.
I told her my experiences with apartment complexes, and I warned Sarah Wormsley with NHSD, and I kind of foretold all the problems that was going to happen with this rental emergency. Before, it was just $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
It was before the first increase, and then before the second increase.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can read all my emails that I sent out to them.
Well, let me ask you about that, if you don't mind, and because a lot of people aren't going to know who you are right off the bat. I mean, I know a number of the folks that I work with or have had on this broadcast in the past know you, right, or know you by name or by work or on Facebook or whatever. Can you describe briefly a little bit about how you got into how you became an agitator? We're titling you as an agitator now on the screen. But particularly in a homeless community and the rights, homelessness rights, and housing rights. Maybe just describe that, and then this idea about what you're describing is that you've been kind of warning city officials about the way assistance programs were structured.
Right. As a homeless person in 2019. I experienced homelessness on the streets in San Antonio for 6 months in that year. And I learned how unsafe the streets were. I learned how unsafe the river can be. But again, I kept saying that I was one of the lucky ones because I happened to have people that would help me out by storing my things. So I didn't have to carry too many things with me. And so when people like Jessica and Maureen, they fought for me when I was homeless, and that's what reeled me into this. They fought for me, and I would tell pastor for a little bit to see if I can find work over there.
We should say that's Jessica O. Guerrero, who's now the head of the Housing Commission, Maureen Galindo, who's been working on the what do you call that? The task force around housing
right.
as well. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And Maureen, she really advocated for me a lot with my former pastor slumlord, and she was able to successfully negotiate a relocation package for the housing substandard conditions that I was living in. So that is exactly what pushed me into homelessness. I had to make a decision. Do I want to pay this really nice $300 a month for this leaning house on Potomac Street, or do I want to live? Which one do I want to do? Have cheap rent, or do I want to live? So that's why I packed it. I vacated his hell. So
how were you able to make that transition? Can I ask?
From living from the substandard housing to homelessness.
Into like hard to.
Maureen, she advocated against the Lord pastor, and she was able to get him to promise to pay $2,000.
Okay.
And then, unfortunately, he didn't pay. Came back to El Paso because he said he would go ahead and give money. I came back, and then I asked him. I said, "I'm here. I need help."
Wow.
That's when TRLA got involved. Texas TRLA got involved, and then I took
Rural
him to
legal aid.
court.
Yeah.
And I was able to win the case by getting $2,000.
And so, and for a lot of people, that would have been enough. I mean, for a lot of people, you get in, you get a nice place, you get, some kind of steady income, and, glad over, getting on with my life. I'm going to walk my dog every day. You, on the other hand, you've become kind of a fixture in advocating for other folks who are experiencing homelessness
Yes.
or the need for housing for all. Can you tell me a little bit about that work? And then I'm really interested if you can kind of give folks a quick update on what's happening right now in spite of this strong rhetoric that we're hearing from the mayor and others to landlords. Hey, you guys better XYZ, stay in line, stay in shape, because we know that's not happening everywhere. So maybe if you could kind of like a little bit about that and bring us current, let us know what's happening and how people can help.
Well, it's true. I got more deeply involved in homelessness by I do what you call ghostwriting, and the cops kind of know me. I ride around on my blue bike around San Antonio, and I just look out. See something, say something. That's my motto. See something, say something. And I used to have the ear of the mayor, Ron Nierenberg, through his senior policy advisor, which is Lydia. So I would constantly send her text after text after text, and I would show her video after video after video, constant abuses of homelessness. And so then I would just tell her, report everything to her. The city officials, I would report to them and say, look, these apartment complexes, you have a wonderful program. I endorsed the NHSD because they were the closest agency that I came to getting out of homelessness. But I warned the city officials and I said, look, you're giving people a stack of apartment complexes that you swear up and down is your service provider that will help people get out of homelessness, that will help people keep from being on the streets. But you call this stack of apartment complexes corporate apartment complexes, mind you, all corporate.
Right.
And you call them, and I was getting the same response over and over again. And they would all tell me, oh my God, we've been begging the city to take us off that damn list. We don't want to have anything to do with city funding.
Wow.
And the moment that I say that NHSD is asking for a tax ID, boom.
Yeah.
It's
sounds an awful lot like I have insurance through my work. I'm really grateful to be in this position. I was one of those people who had nothing until the Affordable Care Act, and then I for a couple of years I was making nothing and I was getting like penny a month, good decent health care. I was like, a new world, right? So it's been a roller coaster. But you open up these health insurance manuals, or you go to their website and say, well, where's coverage? And you've got these long lists of these doctors and everybody who's going to work with you and help you, and you start calling and they're like, well, we don't do that. We don't know what you're talking about. So the same thing here with housing, huh?
Yeah, that's exactly how it was. And it was so bad that I complained. I talked to Jonathan Lozano with NHSD, and he said, look, hey, he tried to give me another list. I talked to my supervisor. She's giving me this better list. And then I looked at it. I said, these are the same ones that are on that other list. And so he's like, you know what? I'm just not giving any more lists to people. And I said, okay, well, that's good. Now they're just giving it, now they're just saying, well, it's up to you. If you can find an apartment complex that will take the money from us, then we'll go ahead and pay for it. Then on top of that, I learned about the waiting period. Even back then, before coronavirus, it was going to take about a month to get to that place. And so now we're in coronavirus, and all these people is pushing the delay even further.
Yeah.
And that's not, the moratorium is helping today, right now. The moratorium is helping.
You talk about the moratorium on evictions.
Correct. You did. You gave very vital, good information about the moratorium with the July 24th deadline for federal and HUD housing, and then the Texas renters until May 30th. That's awesome. That's great. But that's not enough, And so, because not everybody is going to get their jobs back.
Right.
Not everybody.
Right. Right.
Okay. And the reason why they're, and then the organization that's pushing grace period with the mayor and trying to push to have a 60-day grace period for ordinance. It's like, it's not going to help either, because the problem with grace period is that it doesn't freeze the rent. If you don't freeze the rent, apartment complexes, they don't give any mercy when it comes to debts.
Right.
They don't. So they're not going to freeze the rent, and that's what you need. Well, what you really want is forgiveness. Forgiveness of the months during coronavirus. But they're not going to do that. And so I kept telling them, I kept telling NHSD that they're going to take advantage of you. I even asked Sarah and another lady in PR, because they were getting upset with me because I kept calling it a bailout. I kept phrasing risk mitigation as a bailout. And so they had to call me, and they told me, please don't say that. It's trying to help out the residents from becoming evicted. I go, what's not helping? Apartment complexes like Almost Club. He wasn't paying attention to the news. He thought that the last day was April 26th. So on the 27th of April, boom, he puts all the lockout boxes on everybody's doors. And then on top of that, he lied to me, and he said that these were people with months and months and months, $4,000 or $5,000 back up in charges. Well, when you go talk to those residents, they're telling me that, oh no, I've been paying my rent for 10 years. For 10 years, every month I was paying my rent, and I lost my hotel job on March 13th. So I'm only 1 month late, just one.
Oh yeah.
And she got the box. She got the box.
What?
And it's just, and then other residents are telling us that they're being denied. They're being to pay internet. And so, and he's like, well, I can do whatever I want. I can choose whatever I want. Don't want to pay internet, that's fine. But after like 2 years, that comes out to about $2,000-3,000.
So it sounds like, when we talked, when we had Jessica and Maureen and Fabiola and Nikki on the show, it's 2 months ago. One of the concerns then was, you mentioned the risk mitigation program, that had been something that had been developed, that it was going to be led from below, that it was a grassroots program, that deciding how people get money, that it's like, if you agree, I'm wondering, is that, disaster hits, right? COVID hits, pandemic, and the crisis moves a good program into something wherein all the money goes straight to the landlords.
Yes.
Was that an issue that you saw? Okay, so that allows people like this this is the Almost apartments. What was the name of the apartments there?
So the problem with Almost Club Apartment, they're private corporate entity.
Okay.
When we asked about getting an apartment there, we asked him, do you take Section 8 or voucher program? He was very adamant. His name is Edward Garza. He was extremely adamant. He goes, we don't take Section 8, no vouchers, nothing. We do not take any money from the government.
Okay.
See, so that is just one example of a corporate apartment complex that will not take any money from the local government. And so he's not going to take that money from the risk mitigation program. Just like I explained when I was homeless, there were so many apartment complexes from Heron Vital, Austin Highway, Babcock and 410 on both sides, south side in the Brooks Air Force Base area. So many of them out there, and they would just say, no, we won't. We'll take it from you, but we won't take it from this.
What's the difference? What kind of control does that put on if an apartment owner, if a landlord takes money through this program, ostensibly then to offset or reduce the rent or utilities or whatever on the residents there? What's different between that then and those who stay out, but they're still bound by, like the Texas Supreme Court, the stay on evictions? Is it a case where those who don't participate in the city program, as soon as that end of this month comes, everybody's out? Are there better protections for those who are involved with risk mitigation still? What's your opinion on that?
There is no better protections. They're out. They're going to be out the moment that the moment that May 30th hits, or should I say June 1st.
Mm-hmm.
The moment that June 1st hits, or even July 25,
Okay.
all those people are going to be out.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the risk mitigation, like I said, it takes anywhere from 2 months
Yeah.
to get help from them.
Oh, yeah.
You have to wait for that. You're
Wow.
not going to wait for that.
Wow.
And that's the whole point about grace period.
Mm-hmm.
The hole is getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still waiting for Jolene Garcia to respond to me from
Mhm.
Top Organization,
Mhm.
because I gave her a very detailed scenario on Fabiola's Facebook group page.
Mm-hmm.
I gave her a very detailed situation, happens all the time,
Yeah.
not isolated event, and she's still yet to respond to that.
Wow. Well, I know
So-
I'm not going to bully up on organizers. I mean, we're all out here doing the same.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that the grace period,
Yeah.
the only way that a grace period will work is if you freeze the
Right.
rent or
Okay.
forgive the rent.
Right.
But
Agreed.
otherwise, yeah.
So I want to
It's
follow
just
up with
'cause
you on that, and I want to build this. Hopefully, if we can do more broadcasts together. But this whole, I mean, to keep a very close eye on this as best as we can. And I know you are, and others, and hopefully Mario and myself can tie in from as we're able to continue to exert pressure and maybe move us in a way that is more protective of folks here in our communities, that we won't let the tidal wave of evictions, displacement. I mean, people are having trouble just eating right now. 1 in 4 children are not eating well right now. But what I was interested in today, particularly that because people need to know who to target, where to go in the moment, because I know people are in crisis right now, as we're talking about, and you've identified some properties where I think one I saw, and I think the first time I reached out to you is on Facebook, that there's a mobile home complex where the mailboxes were broken, and people were waiting for their stimulus checks, and they requested that those mailboxes be fixed so that they could make sure that they could get stimulus. And the response was,
Yeah, there you go. The response was, she confirmed that they were broken, and I spoke to a lady in that office, and she says, well, we just got them fixed, so they should be working now, and just tell them that to use the same key. And I'm like, okay, so you just got them fixed? Correct. And I said, okay, thank you, I appreciate it, and got her name and everything. I called and I spoke to the individual who reported this to me. I said, can you confirm that the residents can now get their checks out of their mailboxes? And she contacted some of the residents that were complaining, and yes, it was fixed. But
it was, okay.
They had been out for so long, and they couldn't get into their mailboxes. Some people actually chimneyed the box, and it's always open, and so they would just never lock their mailbox so that they can't get the mail.
Was it because someone from outside was calling and bothering them, or they were afraid? What motivates a property owner, property manager to act when the residents can't do it?
Phone calls.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's phone calls from the media, phone calls from the community. When we went to Almost Club Apartments, it wasn't the strike the protest that I thought we were going to have, because we never really had the protest. What scares the landlords into submission is phone calls from the community.
Okay. People
that are not even associated with them.
Yeah.
Those phone calls and that attention.
Yeah.
Like Judge Wolf said what he said on the COVID-19 nightly hearing or whatever presentation. He said this much about it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all he said.
That's
it's just this much information. And then he just said, he made the statement, this is such a shame, that they would do such a thing, and they are under investigations.
Okay.
So when I showed, and that was going to be a quiet, hush-hush, haven for hope type of investigation. And but because I did that call to action, and I showed up the next day after work, because I got off a little bit early, and I showed up over there, and he just started talking to me. He just started telling me everything. And then Edward Garza and
okay.
how are the phones? And he goes, oh my gosh, the phones would not stop ringing off the hook.
Awesome. New San Antonio.
And then PR reporter called me because he couldn't get through. He goes, can I use your phone so I can interview him? Sure. And then I put him on speaker, got to interview the manager, and that's when I found out that the manager was lying about so many things.
Wow.
And I said, look, if you are right and you did everything correctly and you didn't break the law whatsoever, then why did you order your maintenance people to take down the losses before the Attorney General showed up? Because that was the phone call that Judge both made. And that's why I asked him. I said, if you were right, how come you didn't leave the boxes on?
Yeah.
Why did you have them taken off? And so out of all the boxes that he put up, only 2 remained on, because I guess he only had 2 real cases
that he could justify. Well, what about, are there cases going on right now? Are there people who need to hear their phone ringing right now that we can share with folks?
I would think all of them. You need to put, I think because of what with Almost Club and the one that, while we were working Almost Club, Box 29 was working in another apartment complex in the south side.
Okay.
Same identical time. They did a story on that apartment complex in the south side, except they didn't use red boxes. They used red paper forms to really scare the crap out of them. Yeah. So I think everybody, you need to constantly look at all the apartment complexes and let them know, we're watching y'all. We are watching. You know, and it's just a shame, but there are landlords and apartment complexes that are strategizing and learning how best to get their filed eviction case to go through immediately those 2 days.
Yeah. Well, what I'd like to do is maybe I'll follow up with you, and if we identify cases in the next couple of days of property owners, property managers that need attention from the community, to put it nicely. Maybe we can just put that up on the screen. We could follow up with folks by email. We can do, whatever we can do to support that. Molly, I really enjoyed talking with you. I want to do it again soon. So I'm not going to say goodbye, but let's follow up, and let's get those names up on the board. And to make sure that people are aware of what's happening as it's happening, because I know a lot of things move into social media, or because there's not one center pushing, the messaging out, getting the information out, organizing people. We need lots of different nodes of communication, and so we'd like to just play a part of that with you.
Oh, definitely. And to answer that question about where can one go for extra resources and everything, there is a website. It does work. It's www. and then it's SACRD. It's like the word sacred, but you take out the E.
Okay.
www.sacred.org. And all that's required is that you put in a zip code that where you live, or what have you, or where you stay at night. And then once you put in that zip code, you'll get another prompt that asks, what is it that you need? It could be food, utilities, or rent. And then once you put that in there, then a whole string of organizations will come up. And for the most part, I would say about 80-85%, those organizations are pretty accurate. I tried it, and now what I did when I had a need for food, I put it in there. I put 78209, and there were a lot of organizations. I went to the first one on the list, but it said Monday through Friday that they were open, and this was before everything went on lockdown. And I was able to go there on a Sunday because it was a church. So I showed up to the church and I said, hi, y'all have this thing, and the people that run that program happened to be there. And so she, understood, and she actually got me a bag or 2 of food. So they are very working. So that's a good website to go to if you have food or utilities or things like that. But another thing is, yeah, I don't know if there's any organizations out there that's getting on top of CPS, but I'm sure a lot of people are getting this. You see it?
Can you read off a line of that for me?
I'll read you the scariest line of all.
Okay.
Delinquency notice. Delinquency notice. This said that I have to pay by April 27th. I wasn't able to pay this, obviously, because I lost, like I said, 2.5 weeks of wages. And then I got another bill, and it says you need to pay by May 11th. So if I've already been given a delinquency notice, and if I don't pay this by May 11th, then guess what? I'll get a disconnect notice. So CPS, even though they have a moratorium, like you said, they're just they're in sync with the apartment complexes.
Wow.
Still practicing harassment, scary tactics like this.
Yeah.
And CPS is going to send me a disconnect notice shortly if I don't pay. Another path could possibly take is reaching out to city councils. I did that. I actually sent an email to where I live here, Alamo Heights City Council. And then I also responded to that KSAT 12 story that they discovered a tunnel system, which I visited myself, but I remained quiet about. I never disclosed any hiding place of homeless people ever. Been to that tunnel system before, and it's over there by 281 in Hollywood Park. Somebody went into the tunnel, and a cop called them, and then they discovered it. So I responded to the Hollywood Park, the little itty bitty neighborhood over there by 281, and I think somebody, I don't know who it was that said, I think it was either Nikki or Nikki Johnson on your previous episode. It was Fabiola. One of them responded saying to contact your city electives. Well, I actually did that. Reached out to Alamo Heights and to Hollywood Park, and I got the most thoughtful reaction from a city council member from Hollywood Park.
Okay.
And so I actually got an in.
Yeah.
And it says, I want to work with you on resolving homelessness in San Antonio, in Bexar County. And so he's actually going to introduce me to their city council, and we're going to devise some plans on how to resolve homelessness. So that does work. Reaching out to the city electives and of councils of surrounding areas that's not San Antonio.
That really is fantastic, Molly, and the fact that you continue to reach out and that there are people there that are seemingly receptive is fantastic. I want to keep tabs on you, and I want to follow up with you, and I know these next few weeks are going to be already people are in critical condition across the city. This is need to create words for this. People's lives are in jeopardy, and I know as we approach these deadlines, there's a tremendous amount of violence that can befall our neighbors, our families, our own families, and so I do want to help amplify the good and the bad. Where there is positive movement that people can support, we want to support that. If there are bad actors or folks that we need to put out there and hang out there and remind also our mayor and council about, let's do that. For now, I want to close out, but I definitely want to come back together, and I appreciate you so much.
You too. Thank you for everything that you're doing as well, for bringing all this awareness to the community. Thank you.
Right. I'm so sorry, and I apologies to Maria Turvin and Yanawana Valarios. I had that video queued up to play. My timing, everything was lined up, and it's not loading for whatever reason right now. So I'm going to keep working on that, and maybe even build around that. And in fact, I'm planning an interview with a friend of mine who covers Indian country all over, really Turtle Island in North America, maybe some beyond. Actually, we tried to work on a story in South America and Amazonia at one point together, but she's doing a big package of stories on coronavirus in Indian country, and So I know I want to bring her on, bring my friend on, and it may be a good time to kind of package a way to package things together. So apologies on that. I threw this up. This has kind of been on the crawl, I guess, for most of the show, the Deceleration News. Check us out, deceleration.news, the Patreon, if you can support what we're doing. I would love to get my wife, Marisol Cortez, involved more. And it's hard. It's hard. Just I'm working full time. I'm able to integrate this somewhat into my work at the Sierra Club, and so I do have to jump in when I didn't hear this the first time, but when Molly was saying, hey, I don't know if there's people that work on this CPS stuff, right? I had to kind of smile because next Tuesday night, I think. Tuesday night, there will be a town hall related to CPS, and specifically, take that down. Specifically in terms of kind of like an energy recommendation. They've been running, ran for about 10 years, a program called the Save for Tomorrow Energy Program, with a commitment over a decade old that they were going to, by conservation and other means, save enough energy to prevent the need for another power plant in San Antonio, which sounded great then because we're all fighting still to get Dirty Dealey, our oldest, dirtiest coal plant, taken offline, which we did a year back or so. And so we're really looking at COVID now in terms of energy, utility, water, power, security, renter, owner. All of this stuff is this matrix of human security and the well-being, social security, and of our communities. And so when we think about something like energy efficiency, that Save for Tomorrow energy program phased out, they're looking at a second phase of that and looking not very high, right? They on a recent call were calling energy savings the fifth fuel. Well, really it's the first fuel. The very first thing we should be doing is not burning coal, not burning gas, not building solar panels necessarily for new consumption, right? We're trying to offset existing consumption, not continue to grow. And so our recommendations, we had a Sierra Club hired out a consultant, and that report has come back, and that will be coming out soon, the information around that. But basically, we're finding that they can achieve much greater savings than they are right now beginning to tell council. So this is going to council, the kind of like the lobbying side of this. A colleague of mine just tipped his hat to me today, so thank you for that. But the thing about all of this is we know that energy savings is not only not investing in a new power plant, it's not only the coal that we're burning or the gas that we're burning or the climate instability and the heat, it's not only the particulates in the air, the heavy metals and the public health consequence, but all of this is also, it's about people being secure in their homes. And so a big part of the Save for Tomorrow energy program now is being called Flex Step, is investing in people's homes, is weatherization programs. We had our home done, where no cost to the homeowner, and this is, again, we got to figure out the renter side of this, that, the insulation is blown in, the windows are sealed, all this stuff goes on. But what doesn't happen is if the roof is too old or if the foundation is deemed, shabby or whatever, nothing happens. But we need to make sure, renter, owner, whatever, that if we can take care of the housing stock in San Antonio, if we can not build more power plants, if we can make sure that those we do build are not exacerbating and continuing to punish people through the extreme heat every year, if we are adjusting our rates in a way that people who use the least, have the least footprint, have a fairer share in terms of what they're expected to pay than those, who come in, the biggest users, right, should be bearing the brunt of whatever kind of, rolls out of COVID, whatever rolls out of this economic crisis we're moving into, whether it's recession or depression, that's where the weight of these bills needs to sit. And so another part of this is negotiating, still open the windows. Alice isn't going to open the windows. You can call me on Skype. But we've got to close out in 20 minutes. But yeah, you can. If you call me, if you have my number on Skype, let me. I'm asking for it now. I'm going to open up my Skype window, and I think that's what you mean. So anyway, that's where I'm at. So we are looking at CPS. We are looking at, in the same way, I'm sorry that you're getting these disconnect or these kinds of letters. We've looked, or I and others that I've worked with have looked around the country and tried to understand what publicly owned utilities, so like CPS Energy it used to mean City Public Service. It is owned by the city, but functions very much in a vacuum, in isolation, I should say. We work, and a lot of us. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you, Marisol. Maybe clarifying, Alice, your question. Can you still open the windows? We can open our windows. I totally missed that. Yes, the window's open. We're free to breathe. Okay, yeah, no, that's what it sealed the windows. I mean, around the window frames, and then in some of the leaky areas, you can get foam stuck in, so it's just not blowing out. In fact, we still have spots. Now you're gonna get me talking about my windows. I don't talk about my windows. This is over. Listen, it's your fault. The window's open. The roof doesn't open. That's something I'd like to work on. And then when it all lifts off, we're out of here. Anyway, I'm tired. I don't know what else to say. I'm really sorry that Maria. Apologies again. We pushed back this interview from a week back. I had it queued up to go this time, and so that's out of there. So I will just say one more time, we do have this resource list. It's really hard to read. We try to keep this up there, right? So it's no longer, in the city of San Antonio, you're no longer required. There was this test, right? You had to do the self-evaluated screening to get cleared, to be tested for COVID-19. That doesn't exist anymore. I don't have the current locations for that. No, it wasn't your confusion, Alice. It's totally my confusion. I'm praying that I sleep tonight and then my brain is more powerful than any confusion that you can bring into my this our comment screen. But if you have any questions, you have any concerns, this is a great resource. Southwest Workers Union mutual aid efforts, they're going strong. They've got some resources that have come in. They're doing good work. mutualdisasterrelief.org has groups from around the country. I didn't see San Antonio last I looked. I know there have been mutual aid work going on here. Other efforts, I mentioned the need at the blood bank. They do practice social distancing. They do a general screening when you come in. But again, at the end of the day, we know this stuff is non-detect, essentially, right? Unless you get the test. And that they're super carriers, and we just have no idea. And so there's a lot of insecurity, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety, and all this is very real and justified. And for those people that are also on top of all of this, looking at the abyss of no longer having shelter, a place to of their own, a place to keep their food cold, a place to sleep, turn out the lights, and open the window. There's a lot going on, and this is the little bit. Marisol and I, we've stayed in as much as possible. In other circumstances, maybe we'd be taking more risks, but we're with our baby, with our young one, with the rest of our family and elders around us. We're playing it very, very safe. But we do want to provide this room for whatever it's worth. As a place where people can organize. I know a lot of other people are doing probably similar and better forms of outreach, and I hope everyone finds exactly what it is that they need. I will direct folks back to the last episode on mental health. I think that's a really good one. We've had a couple shows really getting into just learning the basics of mindfulness and breathing, being aware of yourself. The thing I really loved about Maria's our conversation was this idea of taking ownership for your health, right? I've interviewed others, in the healing field here in San Antonio, actually over at the Human Path, and they were like breaking it down. Here's this thing you pick, and here's how you make it, and you throw it here, and it's like these plants are in my yard, and so I'm picking, and I haven't steeped the tea yet, But it's amazing, right? It's amazing what's all around us, and it just takes a little bit of a knowledge sharing, right? Skill sharing. And so, if anybody has any ideas how we can do that through the deceleration, just let me know, or Marisol know, and we'll do everything we can to pass along what we learn and what you share with us. Because as you can tell from the last 20 minutes of my talking, there's not a lot that at least I have to offer in and of myself, but I like talking to folks, so that's good. Anyway, Alice, Molly, who's on here, Marisol tuned in, and Jog, always with the better analysis. Hopefully we get you back on a broadcast soon to bring us current. And what Molly was sharing, Poppy Davis, thanks for joining us on this broadcast. A new friend of ours who responded to the bipolar conversation I was having with Mr. Luna recently. Just everybody who is able and available. Shireen, good to see your name again, and Kenneth Lagder. A nice surprise. All of y'all, agitate. We'll be following up with many of you soon, and again, deceleration.news is the website. We do have a Facebook private group where we talk just about kind of like what we want to see or what we can get done with this broadcast. Otherwise on Facebook, Deceleration will be sharing information there as well. And let us know what's happening with you. Use the comments. If you need something, say something. And thank you, Molly. I don't know. There's good people in the world, and then there's the people that make the good people in the world feel like, God, I'm not doing anything, am I? Right? So keep it real. Thank you for your time, and thanks everyone for being here.